Hey everyone, welcome to the Field and Garden Podcast. I'm Jessie Graven from the Gardener's Workshop. Today, for your enjoyment, I've pulled together some clips of Lisa speaking over on the Clubhouse app. If you're not familiar with Clubhouse, it's an audio-only social media app for your phone, sort of like a group phone call, but with more features. Lisa and I go on there once a week on Wednesdays to cover various flower farming and flower business topics, as well as answer listener questions. Today, I have for you a couple of great clips from our February chats, covering topics including Lisa's cool flower successes and failures, a debate about row cover usage, and a rundown of what is currently sprouting in Lisa's grow room. So here you go.
So when Jessie and I were deciding what today's topic would be, I said, I have some suffering or dead cool flowers in my garden right now. Maybe cool flower troubleshooting would be an appropriate um, title for us to talk about, because I know that there's lots of people that are just kind of anxious, concerned, excited, worried. I mean, we have all um, a wide window of the spectrum of whether people are concerned or just super excited over what's happening. So before I jump in and tell you about either the dead and suffering or those doing surprisingly well, a couple of thoughts that have come to mind, and I'm not going to necessarily answer these questions because I don't know that I have my answer yet, but I thought I would tell you guys these four things, and then maybe when you're looking at your cool flower garden, maybe we would think about these things. First, I had an epiphany this week when I was walking Tucker. I actually, when it happened, I jumped onto a quick live on Instagram. I don't know if you saw that or not, but I was walking Tucker the morning of one of our really cold mornings. It was in the teens. And I was in the part of the garden that our giant poppy pods plants were planted, and we direct sow those in the fall. So these plants were 7 or 8 inches tall. And this is also in the garden that I do not do any row covering in. It is the area that you either sink or swim where this garden is. And I just stood there looking at how good, the plants looked, and they hadn't been covered at all. And secondly, because they haven't been weeded or hoed probably for about 6 or 7 weeks, um, I noticed how healthy and vibrant the chickweed and the henbit looked. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. It's like, the chickweed and henbit, which we call weeds, um, are cool season hardy annuals, y'all. They're just of a family that we don't want to grow in our garden. And I just thought, look how healthy and vibrant they are, even in these winter conditions that are just crazy. We go from warm to really cold in a really quick swing, which has just got to be hard on plants, right? So that really started a thought process that I had this week. And I had three um, three questions that came to my mind. Is one, do I rely too heavily on covers, row covers? Have I come to use them as a security blanket because of my fear for my plants in the cold weather? So that was my first thought. Have I come to just really rely on row covers too much? The second question I had is, from doing that, is it making my plants weaker? Do you know what I mean? It's like we're growing, I'll say, softer plants that aren't out there rolling with the punches in the actual um, environmental swings. We're kind of tending them a little bit and softening those blows. And is that leading to a plant that is more tender than it should be because of that? And the last one is, for me, should I be more fearless with my cool flowers? And I'll be real honest with y'all, friends. I think that I was more fearless when I started growing cool flowers 20 years ago than I am today. I think we have come to rely so much on some of these protective practices, which I'm not saying there isn't a time and a place for that. I'm saying, are we relying on them too much? And that's food for thought for you, for this week. And maybe next week, Jesse, we'll revisit this. And I would love to have input from you guys about this. Are we relying on covers too much? Is that leading us to have plants with issues that we might not have if they weren't protected? And should we be more fearless with cool flowers? Basically, you know what I'm saying, y'all? Are we helicopter farmers, right? We talk about helicopter parents that hover over their children. That's what I'm feeling like. So that's just kind of my lament on that today. But so I do have some cool flowers that are looking a little tough. A couple that I suspect are dead, one for sure. And so the conditions here, I'm in, for anyone that needs a reference, I am in zone 7B/8A, southeastern Virginia. And we typically get cold, but we usually just don't have a lot of snow. And so it's kind of easy to use your row cover to provide that added protection from the really cold wind. But when we start mixing snow in with this equation, it makes it a little bit more difficult because, we take our covers down. These are lightweight row covers. This is not a caterpillar tunnel. This is just a low tunnel with a lightweight row cover on it. It is not made to sustain any kind of frozen precipitation, ice or snow. So you have to take your covers down or you'll suffocate your plants. So I wrote this down just so I wouldn't get confused myself. We had snow followed by really cold temperatures. So we only got like 4 or 5 inches of snow, enough that the covers had to come down. And then immediately, while those covers were cold and frozen, we dove down. I mean, I think the lowest we went was 11 degrees, which is pretty normal for us here. I mean, we get those kind of temperatures, but it really kind of freaked me out because I couldn't put my covers up. And I will tell you that cool flowers looked no different after the snowstorm than it did before the snowstorm. So the plants that I'm getting ready to tell you about, kind of their state, this happened before these really low temperatures. So it was either other potential problems or issues or needs not being met, were the problem with them. So I'm just going to run down my list, of the dead or suffering. We'll go with them first, right? And then we'll finish it off with some good news. So dill is one of those cool flowers that we definitely live on the edge of where they're winter hardy. And um, it actually got snapped about a month ago. And so I kind of expect that. And I always plan on planting more dill in very early spring. Even if I didn't lose it, I'd be planting it again. So dill, is a goner. And the other one that was dead for sure before this latest storm came was calendula. And our calendula, frankly, and I think I've said it on here previously, our calendula looked like heck, but when it was planted, they were they were poor plants when we planted them. And you plant them because you don't have anything else, right? I mean, we didn't have other calendula plants to choose from. So I was not at all surprised. Calendula is winter hardy for us when it's like every other cool flower. When you kind of plant it on a timely manner for your time, healthy plants that get established before the cold of winter comes. So we didn't meet any of those. And we are reaping the results of that. So I've already restarted calendula. If you meet me tomorrow I do a Facebook Live from the farm at 11 a.m. on our Facebook page. I'll be showing the calendula that just Bobo just started it on Monday. It's already all cracking. I've got tons of stock and straw flowers and some billy balls and other things. So be sure and join me to have a look. They're really beautiful. I hardly could leave my plant room this morning. So calendula is dead. Totally our fault, operator error, and we've restarted it. The other one that I haven't quite figured out yet, though, is they're suffering. They're not dead. Well, some of them are dead, but there's still some suffering ones alive. Is Chinese forget me nots. Really trying hard to kind of nail this one down because who doesn't want blue flowers? They're a great little flower. We had great ones last year, but I'm not sure what I did wrong. We direct seeded and we just they were there and then they were gone. I don't know if I'm not sure what's happening with them, but I don't think I can replant them. I know I won't get stems long enough. It would be futile for me to replant them in very early spring for here where I am. So I'm kind of nursing one little patch that is still surviving out there. Another not real surprising loss we had. They're not all dead, they're just suffering, is the Ami family. So I grow a couple of different Amis. Ami Graceland, that's kind of the standard white, lacy, Queen Anne's lace lookalike. A lot of those really look dead to me. We'll see if they come back or not, if they're just killed back to the soil level. But they look bad. The green mist Ami does not look quite as bad. I think they will definitely reboot. There's just a lot of the vegetation that looks dead, but there's still green on them. And in that same boat is my billy balls, Craspedia. I know that we are on the edge of where they're winter hardy, I think. And the deer also do a number on them, but I can see the dead foliage and I'm just going to kind of deem them dead because I'm going to replant something else in their spot. But I have restarted them. And, when we fall plant Craspedia, we get like 40-inch stems, y'all. It is so worth doing it. And these were beautiful plants. I'm not sure what kind of took them out. But we'll see what actually happens. And then I'm just going to give you a very quick rundown on the things that are looking awesome, the things that I am just pleased as punch. Our fall planted Lysianthus, we're doing a test grow this year where we're fall planting Lizzie. And for anybody that's not familiar with us, everything's out in the field. We do not do any of this in houses, which I can't have. So our fall planted Lizzie looks amazing. And we are planting the same varieties again in very early spring, which has always been my kind of go-to planting time, just to see the difference in the performance, the stem count, the stem length, to see if there's a benefit and what the bloom time is on those. And I'll tell you what is really surprising. Saponaria, which is soapwort. Saponaria was direct seeded. It is becoming quickly one of our favorite fillers for spring. They were super big plants. I mean, some of them were 12 inches tall or more, and they were still alive when I looked at them yesterday, uncovered in 11 degrees. So I was really encouraged by that. Also, another surprise was Godicia. They also were super big and they are still green. They're still alive. So I was really surprised. However, I did restart more of that so we can test out some succession planting and see what happens. And then the last one that I was surprised survived were the sweet peas. Our sweet peas are not in the most optimal place. They're not easy to cover where they are. And so they were uncovered, and the sweet peas look awesome, even going through 11 degrees. I think I really want to just share a little bit about what we talked about last week. I kind of proposed some food for thought to folks, and I got some DMs about it, and I also got some other messages from folks. And the big question was, do we rely on row covers too much? or too heavily for cool flowers, because really what cool flowers are cool season hardy annuals. And the whole point of them, of their life, is that they don't just survive cool to cold weather, they thrive in cool to cold weather. And, my question was, are we growing weaker plants by covering them too much out of the gate, really, so that they'd never really get toughened up? And I shared the example of some cool season weeds that I have in my garden, chickweed and henbit. They just thrive without any intervention, and that's just what really made me aware of that. And so I did get some interesting messages from people, things like people thinking, you know what, maybe I did put my covers on way too early, which led my plants to grow bigger than they should have, because it's obviously warmer under the row cover, not just from the heat. I mean, from it, blocking the cold weather, but it concentrates the heat from the sun. Um, and I want to just share what my personal observation is at home. So we'll have several gardens around the farm, and we plant quite a bit of giant poppy pods. Those are the poppies that just get a pod that's as big as your fist, and they're a really in demand fresh cut flower. That pod is, the flower doesn't last but about 24 to 36 hours, and then the petals just fall off. There's nothing you can do to stop that process. And so we've always grew a lot of them for our commercial customers, but we also grow it because we save the seed to package. And so I always, at the end of the fall planting season, if there's any additional space left open, I think to myself, I'm just going to plant more giant poppy pods. We can always, we always sell out of seed. We can always use more. So I have giant poppy pods planted in two different gardens on my farm. One of them in the garden that you can actually view from our live farm cam, which you can find on our website under the blog, under the Learning Center, or you can go straight to my YouTube channel and watch it there. So there's a bed in that garden. And then I put a bed in the back garden, which is, kind of where our tuberoses and our peonies are, the things that we don't have to dig every year. And I will tell you that my observation since our talk last week is that the giant poppy pods that are out in the field that you can see from the farm cam, I'm not sure they're going to survive. I mean, they look pretty tough. But those in the back garden that have never been covered, there are no row covers back there, look awesome. And I just think this has been a very timely lesson for me. So, if you have an example to share, I'd love to hear it at the end. We're doing Q&As or comments. I would love to hear about what your experience has been. But I want to just kind of tell you what's going on the farm right now as well. So I my grow room is really really popping, and if you'd like to see it, you can join me tomorrow. I do a Facebook live on the farm page, the Gardener's Workshop, or actually it's called Gardener's Workshop Farm Facebook page, at 11 a.m. Eastern time on Thursdays. And so tomorrow we will start off by I'm doing my first cuttings of Salvia leucanthia and Salvia mexicana, which I'll talk more in depth tomorrow about them. I will say that normally, when we were in high production years, the salvia was never started this early because I never had room for it to support it out in the grow room until it's time to plant them out, because they prefer to go out once the temperatures are warmer, when it's either at or after last frost. But this year I have room. So I thought I'm going to get my plants started earlier. So I'll be doing that tomorrow and showing the simple steps, how you can take a mother plant, one mother plant, a plant that you dug in the fall, brought inside your garage or whatever, and just kept it alive during winter with minimal watering, And now, because I have now put it into a really warm spot, it has sprouted and we can start taking cuttings. And that's what we're going to be doing tomorrow. And then we're going to go into my grow room. And I was really hard pressed to leave the grow room this morning. Today is a really sunny day. It's still pretty cold here. I mean, I think it was below 30 when I woke up this morning. We have been colder, but what's special about today is not only was it crisp, but it's really sunny. We've been really cloudy. And when I opened the door to my grow room, oh my goodness, it was so warm and toasty and bright in there. And I was greeted by just tray after tray after tray of straw flowers. We have got straw flowers started in every solid color. You can see all the colors that I'm growing over on our website, thegardenersworkshop.com. We now, in addition to selling the mixed, we now sell the solid colors. And I'm not sure if we still have it, but there's a peach that is just phenomenal. And the straw flowers are the largest because they were the first started this year for very early spring planting. And this morning, I mean, they will be perfecto to plant next week. And so I'm going to start bumping them outside a little bit and start getting them hardened off. And then we also have tons of stock. This is the time of year that stock is really the popping time to get in the garden. Straw flowers and stock, I do not fall plant. I only very early spring plant. They don't winter over very well here for us. And so the stock, which is a one and done, and if you haven't ever grown stock, people kind of, just people talking about it made me think because I'm a field grower that I couldn't grow it. But in fact, you can. But the key is getting it in the ground while it's, still 6 to 8 weeks before that last frost and planting transplants so you have a head start because stock really doesn't like heat. And what they start doing is the stems get shorter and shorter and shorter. So I even think that I could push stock more than 6 to 8 weeks from last frost. I think I could do 8 to 10. And it's just really beneficial. Stock is one of those crops. One plant gives you one stem. So when you cut it, you're done. We plant them 8 rows to a 30-inch bed, and then they're 6 inches apart. I think you could even put them closer than 6 inches in row. And it just forces them to grow up taller as long as you have really well prepared soil with fertility and you're feeding them. But stock is the joy of Mother's Day on our farm. Their fragrance, it's like a cinnamon kind of smell, and um, they're just absolutely amazing. So I'd really be interested to hear if what other people are starting and if you kind of did any observations about um, do you think you overused row covers on your cool flowers? For me, I I'm going to really become more fearless and really try to help my cool flowers not have row cover until the dead of winter, like we are now. I mean, when it just gets cold and stays cold and there's a lot of cold wind, that's what row covers are really, really useful for. So I'm just not going to rely on them quite so much after my plants are established, and see if I can't grow some tougher ones.
All right, welcome back. I hope you found these Clubhouse clips interesting and useful. On our Clubhouse chats each week, we include a link to more information about the topics we're covering. For instance, links to blog posts and webinar replays. I'm including the links that we featured in these chats in the show notes for this podcast as well. We'd also love for you to join us over on Clubhouse if you can. We're on at 1 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays. Or you can listen to our full-length chats as a replay in the app whenever you like. I'll include a link to Lisa's club on Clubhouse in the show notes as well. So that's all for today. Thank you for joining me here on another episode of the Field and Garden Podcast. I'm Jessie Graven with the Gardener's Workshop, and I hope you have a great day.